continue in Rambam. Oops. Final chapter of Toim Benitan, which means the laws of a plaintiff and defendant. In other words, issues of a plaintiff. So a person's protest. So we learn an important idea of chazaka. Chazaka means that you have shown ownership. You have demonstrated ownership because you've lived on the land, you've tilled the soil, you've had benefit from. Will you let people in, please? You've benefited from the land for 3 years, and there was no protest made. That's a general law that we've learned, and many details in this law. So a person's protests are not accepted in the following situation. So you have to make a protest, right? That the land is yours and you become the plaintiff over the defendant who has been living in the land, right? Benefiting from the land. And yeah. Okay. So what this situation, a protest doesn't help. Reuven sold a field to Shimon. And Levi was one of the witnesses who signed the deed of sale. Afterwards, Levi came and protested Shimon's ownership of the field, claiming that Reuven stole it from him. Stole it from Levi, right? Follow? We do not heed Levi's protest, nor do we pay attention to the proofs he brings concerning his ownership of the field. Why? Because he's forfeited all of his rights to it. For we tell him, how could you serve as a witness for the sale and then come and protest, right? So you can't become a plaintiff now. Simple. Okay, similarly, concepts apply. If Levi gives testimony in a legal document that speaks of a field belonging to Reuven on the east or on the north, since he referred to the field as an identification marker for the sake of another person and recorded this testimony in a legal document, he forfeits any right to it and cannot issue a protest concerning it. Or we tell him, how could you serve as a witness of a legal document that mentions the field being near another field and then issue a protest concerning it? Since he referred to that field as an identification marker, I'm not sure I got that 100%. Second. I'm not certain what this is saying differently. Some novelty over here that I'm not catching. Sorry. Okay, 2. If in the above situation the witness claims there is one row that I designated as a sign, but not the entire field, that row that is next to the boundary of the field alone belongs to Reuven. This is a claim that is worthy of being heard. He may protest the ownership of the entire field, the exception of that row. So He's saying that he only was a witness for that row and not for everything else. So then he could be a plaintiff. All the above concepts apply only with regard to the one of the witnesses to the legal document who comes to protest. When, by contrast, a judge verified the authenticity of the signatures of witnesses to a bill of sale, he may protest the ownership of the field even though it was mentioned in the bill of sale. The rationale is that he can claim, I did not know what was written in the bill of sale. For a judge may verify the authenticity of signatures of the witnesses to the legal document, even though he did not read it. Witnesses, by contrast, may not sign a legal document unless they read it in its entirety and paid attention to its details. All right, so a witness has to know what they're witnessing to for them to be a witness. As opposed to the judge, he's just he's making an authenticity of the signatures. All right. 3. Following rules apply when Shimon comes and consults Levi, telling him, I am buying this and this field from Reuven. I will buy it with your advice. Even though Levi tells him, go buy it, it is good. Levi has the right to protest Shimon's ownership. He does not forfeit his right because he did not perform a deed. He can tell Shimon, I desired that the field leave the hands of Reuven, for he is a man of force, so I could lodge a claim in court and take possession of my field. So, right, the point over here is, right, it's all about Levi, right? Can Levi become the plaintiff? So here he's giving advice to Shimon to go buy a field from Reuven, which Levi feels that was he has a claim against that field. So why would he tell him to go buy it? And therefore, how could he protest against his purchase? You know, if you felt that it's your property, don't tell Shimon to go buy it. That's not a proof. Why? Because he doesn't want to have to be a plaintiff against Reuven, because Reuven is a man of force, and it's going to be difficult to deal with him. Shimon will be much easier to deal with him, and therefore he wants him to buy it. So then he'll lodge his complaint, right? That he owns the property, so he could deal with Shimon. So it was a little conniving in that, but in other words, but it's not a statement that it's not like you're a witness. You know, why would you witness to something that you believe belongs to you? That itself means you forfeited your claim, but not here, not in this instance. Okay, I hope that's clear. Number 4, following rules apply. When Reuven protests Shimon's ownership of a field, and Shimon tells him, I don't know what you're talking about. I purchased this field from Levi. I didn't purchase it from you. What are you talking about? I got it from... Here are witnesses who testify that I benefit from the land for the amount of time necessary to establish a claim of ownership, at least 3 years, right? Or whatever. So Reuven responds to him, I have witnesses who will testify that yesterday evening you came to me and asked me to sell you this field. I said, you don't really own it. Yeah, you've been on the land maybe, but you don't own it. And eyewitnesses will claim so. This is not a proof of Reuven's ownership. The fact that Shimon came, right, to Reuven, Shimon is saying, I bought it from Levi. And I've been living on there for 3 years, and benefiting from it, right? So it's mine. But I have proved that you came to me last night that you wanted to purchase it from me. That's not a proof. For Shimon could say, I desire to purchase it from you so that you would not protest and trouble me to enter a legal proceeding, even though I do not know whether or not it is really yours. Some laws apply in analogous situations. That's not a proof. I just don't want to have the legal, troubles. And I know that you have some kind of claim on the land, so I came to you for that. But I believe that it's mine. I just don't want to go through the legal trouble. If Shimon does not make such a claim, the court does not advance it on his behalf. Others, he has to make the claim, Shimon, not the court. Number 5, the following rules apply. Following rules apply when Reuven protests and brings witnesses who testify that the field belongs to him. Reuven protests and brings witnesses to testify that the field belongs to him. And Shimon, who is in possession of it, claims, you sold it to me, and I benefited from the amount of time necessary to establish a claim of ownership. Reuven responds, you benefited from the field as a robber. So what do we do here? Whether there are no witnesses that he benefited from the field, or whether there was only one witness who testified that he benefited for 3 years, the person in possession is not required to return the produce that he consumed. The rationale is that he is claiming, I consumed my own produce, and there are no witnesses who are obliging him for the produce. On the contrary, he acknowledged it himself. The witnesses who testified that he benefited the property for 3 years is coming to reinforce the power of the person who benefited. Indeed, if there was another witness with him, the person in possession would be allowed to retain possession of the field. Therefore, Reuven Matzei Shvu says that he did not sell the field, and then the field is returned to him. Shimon Matzei Shvu says that he does not owe Reuven anything because the produce he consumed, he is then released of liability. Well, I didn't catch that 100%. So Reuven makes a protest. He brings witnesses that it belongs to him. But he says, you've sold it to me. He sold it to me, he says, and I've been there for 3 years. Right. So whether there are no witnesses, if he had 2 witnesses, then it would be his. Right? Because it's 2 witnesses versus 2 witnesses. Right? Because you could own something, but maybe you sold it. And the fact that he has witnesses, then it would be his, Shimon's. But here, he has no witnesses, or he has 1 witness that he benefited, not 2. So there's 2 points over here. There's ownership of the land and the fact that you consume from the land. If it was 100%, if there's no question in the law that it belonged to Shimon, then the fact that Reuven consumed on the land means he has to pay him back for what he consumed because you consumed from my property, right? But he doesn't have to pay back what he consumed. Right? Why? Because he lived on there for 3 years. And even there's no witnesses. So therefore, that's enough of a claim that it belongs to him. Because if there would be another witness, then he would be allowed to actually retain possession of the field. So even though, in other words, it's enough his field that what he consumed for those 3 years, he doesn't have to repay, but he's got to give back the field. It's a very fine line over here. Yeah, because Reuven has witnesses, it belongs to him. Or rather, yeah, Reuven had witnesses, it belongs to him. Okay, I have to stop here. Thank you, folks. Baruch Hashem.